Hey guys, it is Mr. Dave with the RayKitty Creation Workshop, and you are joining us for the RayKitty Science Project. Now we have a fun one today, if not a little nasty. Now, the way we're doing this one here, there will be a little bit of magic of television in timing and in cutting things in order to show you kind of what happens over time. And we will also be wandering around the studio a little bit, so there'll be a little bit of camera action there. I want to take a moment and say thank you so much to all of the wonderful crew, everybody here at Studio 519. You guys are the best. I really appreciate you guys. So, big shout out to all of you guys. So what we're going to be talking about today is something very gross. We're going to be talking about germs and bacteria and that kind of yucky stuff. Now, this is one that you can do at home. It does require a little very inexpensive purchase. Now, I have these microscopes that we'll be checking stuff out later. If you do have a microscope, this is a great one for it, but it's not a requirement. So the microscopes we will show a little bit later, but these ones here, this is a tray, a little petri dish of agar, okay? So the stuff in here, I've got a couple of them, and these came in a pack. You can buy these online very inexpensively, okay? These are not expensive, and they are a great tool for checking out the bacteria and things in your home. Now, these ones I've left in my bag. I will be using in a class. I was just kind of showing you how they arrive. But what we're going to do is we're going to be taking bacteria samples from around the studio and from me, and we are going to be depositing them in our little agar dish here, okay? So you can see on the bottom, I've already drawn out my little pizza shape, okay? And so what I'm going to do is we're gonna have 8 samples. Now, you don't have to do 8 samples, but it's kind of fun to be able to check out one sample versus the next, check out bacteria in different places. Now, I've got some great, wonderful places that you will never think that bacteria may be growing, but we're going to have 8 different samples from 8 different places. Now, bacteria are little, we call them germs, and they're something that if you do want to research a little bit deeper, and we will talk a little bit more about when we are looking at our colonies of bacteria. Yes, a colony, okay? So this agar is a material that will actually allow and help that bacteria grow, okay? Now, bacteria isn't something that you can see on its own without, a microscope or a very strong microscope, but when you get a lot of it, when it piles up, when it grows and multiplies and splits off and you've got a lot of bacteria, then you can see a colony of bacteria, and they colonize in different ways. So we'll talk about that. So that being the case, if you are going to have those colonies of bacteria, I'm going to put this piece of paper back here just so you can see it a little bit better with the white background. So I have my little pie drawn on the outside. The easiest way to kind of find the center is to just start from the top and the bottom. Now, these trays have got a little dot on there. Line up the dot on the bottom and the top of the tray, and I'm just going to kind of trace those lines. Now, if you do your all the way across first and make that T first, it's way easier for your intersect not to be way over here on the side. So you make that just like you're cutting a pizza, and there you go. We have our sections, okay? Now, to have that, you're going to want to mark what is going to be in each section so you can see what bacteria is growing in each place. The easiest way to do that is to actually just number these little sections, okay? So we are going to go, let's see, I'm going to go this way here, and I am going to go, let's see, 1, 2, 3, so this will be 1 and 2. I'm doing this upside down, so if my numbers look funny, then you can put something in the comments about how my numbers look funny. 3, let's see, 3, an upside down 3. I'm going to try that. 3, that's a 3. Don't make fun of me. This is a 4, 5. I think that's backward. 6, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so those may not be the right, but you understand. We have our little 8 slices of pizza or our 8 colonies. Now, this will look surprisingly like a very disgusting pizza when we're done with all of the fun little toppings on it. So we have 1 through 8 written on our tray, and we want to note that in our lab notes. Now for my lab notes, I just wrote it on a piece of paper. That's all you got to do. And I'm going to keep this with my tray as it is incubating, and we'll talk about how we incubate it a little later. But we're going to have these things that we're going to collect. I don't want to show you too close. Don't look too close because it's supposed to be a surprise. So these are the things we're going to incubate. I wrote those ahead of time, and that way I can kind of move along and you're not watching me just write things down. Okay, so we have our sections on our tray, and we have our paper that notes where each section is going to be, okay? So I planned ahead, and you can really take samples from anything, okay? You may be surprised by some of the things we get samples from. You may be like, yep, that's pretty gross. I'm sure that has a lot. But you'll be surprised at the level and the types of bacteria that are going to show up on all of these, okay? So I say types of bacteria. When we are examining these under the microscope, we're going to be able to tell what the we're going to describe the colonies, but don't say I know exactly what that bacteria is, okay? Because there are other tests you would have to do to get exact on the bacteria, but the colony will give you a very good indicator of what kind it is. So I'm not going to say if you do this test, you're going to know every bacteria that's in your home. You don't want to know that. Okay, but we're going to have this little agar here, and we are going to collect some samples. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we collect samples first. Now, these trays that I purchased came with these little wooden Q-tips. They're really Q-tips. These are nice. Okay, when you are purchasing them, it's usually not much more expensive to buy them that come with these, but you really don't have to use these. I'm doing these in a classroom, and you're going to notice something. When they come with them, they come with 2 per tray. Okay? Now, let's think about that for just a second. We want each sample to be sterile. Okay? Sterile means there aren't any of those bacteria already on there, and they're not going to want to be there. Okay, so this is a great way of harvesting those samples, but this doesn't come with enough for 8 samples. That's when you get to the expensive portion, and it is cotton swabs, okay? I'm going to call them Q-tips because I've always called them Q-tips. Really, just cotton swabs. I would buy the cheap ones because you're going to throw them away anyway. But you can use these cotton swabs to collect your samples also, okay? Now, I've got these ones here because I've bought a whole bunch of these agar trays because we've been doing a bunch of classes, but you can just use these regular cotton swabs. And when you do, mind that you are being sterile with them. If you are grabbing that cotton swab and you are just rubbing it all over the place, throwing it on the ground, then that is not going to be a sterile environment. Okay, so a practice with these is to make sure you're only touching one side of them all the way from out of the box until you've collected and deposited your sample. One side should be sterile until you've collected the sample, and then it will go in your bag. So I've got some little baggies that I'm going to put these samples in, these used Q-tips when I'm done, and that way we're not just contaminating everything else. Okay, so how do you collect a sample? Now, these techniques that we're using here aren't 100% lab techniques. I want to put that out there, but these are great techniques and terminology for students. You can do this with students of any age, but this, like I say, some of this may not be exactly like lab tested and lab approved, but this is classroom approved, okay? Or home approved. This is something you can do in the classroom. This is something you can do at home. The way that we're going to do it and the terms we're going to use from here on in, a lot of those are classroom terms, okay? So if you say, well, I work in whatever labs and we don't do it that way. No, but you also don't work with like 500 kids running around trying to stick this in their ear and in their eyeball, okay? So these are classroom terms, and that's just to make it a little more easy and a little more fun. Now, we're going to have two different types of samples that we're going to use. For this one here, I think actually all of ours are going to be what we call a dry sample. A dry sample means we're collecting it from something dry, okay? And in order to do that, you have to get it wet. Now, I almost put this one in here. I am paying attention. I did handle that one a bunch on the end there. So the way you're going to get your cotton swab, your applicator, your collection material, the way you're going to get that wet is this is sterile water, okay? You can use normal bottled water that comes from the store just like in a drinking bottle because they usually will have pretty sterile water in there. So this is sterile water. I'm going to dip it in the water to get it just damp, and then I'm going to roll it around on the side a little bit, okay? So I roll it around on the side. That's because we don't really need it dripping wet. We do need it damp. Now, the reason you need it damp is the same reason you wash your hands with water, okay? You're actually able to rub the germs or bacteria off, and in this case, it's going to collect them on the swab. Now, this is a very important technique, okay? So, if we could get real close up on this very important technique, it's twist, okay? You're going to twist that little Q-tip. When you're rubbing it on something, you're going to twist and try and get it on the end, try and get it all along the side. When you are also applying it to your agar, you're going to twist. And the reason is you want to get as much of that surface touching the wherever you're collecting it, and as much of that surface rubbing that bacteria onto your agar. Okay, so remember, you will always twist. Okay, yeah, that was a little Jonathan Davis with my twist there. So you will always twist. And so this one here is already been in the air and all those things. So I'm going to put this one in the bag. I know this one is contaminated, so I'm going to put it in the bag, and we're going to get to collecting samples. Now, as I told you, don't look on this sheet. I have 8 different places we're collecting the samples today. Okay. Now, these samples are all going to be dry samples, so we are going to be getting them wet. And we're going to start with a place that may be a little bit different for me than for you. And that's going to be your hair. I know you're thinking it. I don't have a whole lot of hair. So the way you're going to want to do this is you are going to, this is going to be a dry sample. So make sure you're not touching. I'm just using a Q-tip instead of these ones for this one. And you are going to get it wet because it's a dry sample. Okay. It's always a good practice to put the lid right back on before you move along. That way you don't spill it. Okay. Now this is a dry sample, so we got it a little bit wet. You're going to rub it right in your in your hairline. So for me, that's right back here. Okay. That's not funny either. Yeah, my hairline starts right here. Okay. But I don't want to talk about that. But you're going to rub it in your hair. Remember to twist. Okay, so you're going to twist that while you're doing it. Now, you want to rub it kind of all along your scalp, under your hair. Okay, there's just a little bit of water on there. It will get your head a little bit wet, but you'll be okay. Also, where we're going to collect this from is behind your ear. Okay, so right where your ear meets your head, you are going to twist that thing around there and collect that bacteria. Okay, now we have got a nice little supply of bacteria here. Now in my notes, okay, I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and my first one here is my head. Okay, so we know that that's going to be number 1 because we marked it on our agar tray on our lid. I also have the lines on the bottom. So this is going to be number 1 that we are depositing. So remember, when you are depositing it, you want to twist, okay? So stay within that pizza line. Now this agar can crack, so you want to be kind of careful with it, but you are going to take it and you're going to just twist within that little pizza area there, okay? Now you should see a little bit of kind of scratching on the surface, but don't push hard enough to tear it. If it does tear, it's not the end of the world, but you want to try not to tear it, okay? So that is our first sample. That is from our head. So it's already written in our lab notes. I'm going to deposit this one into our bag. Okay, and we're going to get our next sample. Now this one here, I'm going to do with one of these swabs because they're a little bit longer and we'll make it more dramatic. Now this one is actually a wet sample, okay? And that means we do not get it wet because we're going to be collecting it from something that is moist or wet already. And that's going to be my mouth, okay? So I'm going to put this in my mouth and I'm going to just like get in there. Now when you're doing it, my wife is a dental hygienist, so she kind of let me know where all the most germy areas are. You want to go all the way down along your cheek and gum there, that little where your cheek meets your gums, and then you want to go right where your teeth meet your gums. So you're going to get this sample here and you're going to rub it in there. That's so gross. Yeah, so you're rubbing that and you're collecting it from where your cheek meets your gums, okay? Lots of bacteria in there. That's nasty. And then you're going to get around the bottom of your teeth where your teeth meet your gums. Okay, that part where you're supposed to brush but you never really do, that's where you want to get this. Now remember to twist, okay, because you want to get the bacteria all over this thing. Now, this was a dry sample. Now it's wet. Okay, so we've already applied that moisture from our really grody mouths, okay? So now we're going to apply this. We know that this is number 2 in our samples. Now you don't have to do them in this order at all. This is just the way I have them written, okay? So number 2 is our mouth. I'm going to apply it to that portion of the tray. I will twist and I will just kind of rub it and twist as I go. Now you're not going back and forth, okay? That's the zigzag is the old method. And they say not to do that anymore. You just twist while you're putting it on there. So this is sample number 2. Okay. Now for sample number 3, there is lots of bacteria there. I am going to use my cotton swabs for this one. And remember not to touch that tip. I'm going to grab it from this one here. This is still sterile. I'm going to get a dry sample, which means you put it in the water. Yeah, I don't know. But you put a dry sample in the water, and I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to kind of rub it off a little bit there. And this next one, number 3 for us is going to be my hand. Okay. Now, I have a little line of marker on my hand from when I was marking up the things there, but this isn't the grossest part of your hand. Okay. When you're looking at your hand, the grossest part is going to be right in the creases of your hand, in between your fingers and your fingernails and your cuticles. So remember to twist. I'm going to rub this right on these parts of my hand here, right in those crevices and cracks and creases. Okay, I'm going to go in between my fingers. Now, if you are like me and you have done some damage to your fingers, I actually have a little space right there in between these two that will go right in. But get in between your fingers, remembering to twist. Then get your cuticles. Okay, that's where your fingernail meets your finger there. And then under your fingernails. Okay, the part of your fingernail that tastes like Cheeto, that's the part that you want to do here. Okay, so this is the Cheeto flavored part of your fingernail. Now, you can see my Q-tip kind of tore just a little bit. That's okay, it's not going to hurt anything. But this is going to be our sample number 3. Okay, so sample number 3, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to twist as we deposit that. Try not to tear that agar, be gentle with it. But you do want to get in enough to where you're squeezing that bacteria off onto your tray. Okay, so we'll squeeze that on there, and that is sample number 3. Now for our next samples, I'm going to kind of tour through the studio a little bit. I will give you a heads up. As we get near the restrooms, I will be taking samples in the restrooms. The sound will cut off in our video, okay? So I may talk about that a little bit, but I'll get kind of an over and I'll be telling you what's going on. So we're going to tour the studio and we are going to collect some of our samples from the studio. So you make sure that you bring your tray. Make sure you bring your lid. Make sure we bring our water. And make sure we bring our baggie to put our used or already contaminated in there. So I'm going to put these in my pocket and we're going to go check out the studio. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to get some samples from around here in the studio. So we've got a wonderful crew, a wonderful team that's going to help me out getting these samples. Now, I will make a note when we get to the restroom. There's no sound in the restroom, so I'll talk over that so you hear what's going on, but you don't want to hear what goes on in the restroom anyway. So you're going to follow me, and we're going to go and we're going to get some samples, the ones that we had marked, and we are going to get them right over here. And so our first one that we had marked is our door handle, okay? We have our wonderful team in there editing and doing all of that fancy magic. And so we really appreciate these guys. I appreciate Travis, cameraman, working with me here, doing some crazy stuff. So we're going to get our sample of the door handle. Now, we already marked it in our lab notes that is going to be number 4. Okay, so I'm going to get that sample. Remember, make sure this stays sterile. This is going to be a dry sample, so we get it wet. Yes, that makes all of the sense in the world. So we are going to get this one wet because it's a dry sample. So I'm going to moisten my applicator here, and we're going to try and get the high touch areas on the door. And that's going to be these parts here where everybody grabs that door, okay? That's gross. So we're getting all of these things from the door and this door handle. We're going to get a little from the top, a little in the bottom. Remember, we're twisting this, I call it a Q-tip. We'll say it's a Q-tip. We're twisting it while we're gathering those samples to make sure that we have it covered with all of that bacteria. Okay, so I'm going to deposit our sample in number 4. Okay, so I'm depositing that sample in number 4. Just like we showed you, I'm going to twist while I'm applying that. And that is our sample for number 4, and that is our door handle. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid back on my water. I am going to put my applicator back in the little bag. Make sure not to touch that. Now, if you say, oh, well, that's gross, what happens if you touch it? People touch the doorknob all the time. So we're going to put this right back in here. I'm going to put it, there you go. And this is now going to keep that from getting my pocket all bacteria-y. Okay, next we're going to head over to the restroom, and we're going to check out the sink here in the studio. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple different places in the restroom. And my sound will probably cut out here, so you're going to hear me talking, but that will be through the magic of television, and I will voice over this part. So I'm just going to show you as we go from here. Okay, so what we're seeing, or what I want you to kind of pay attention to, is I'm showing you, I'm just going and I'm getting these things ready to collect our next samples. But as you're looking around, look at like the stair rail, look at the doors, things like that. There's a lot of places that are high touch. Now what we're going to do is we are going to do the sink handle. So this sink handle is the part where you turn it on, wash your hands, turn it back off. We are going to collect the germs from mainly the handle. We don't really care too much about the rest of the sink. We want to know what is on the handle. So this is a dry sample, so we're going to get it wet, and we are going to think about the places on this sink that you actually touch the most. That's the top when you're turning the sink off, so we're going to collect it from there, remembering to twist, 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 and we are also going to collect it from underneath the handle part, because that way, you know, when you're turning the sink on, you pull it up to turn it on, you push it down to turn it off. So we're remembering to twist. We are going to deposit this one into number 5, because we know that that was the one that we already set up for it. We wrote it in our lab notes. There is number 5. So we're going to dispose of this applicator or Q-tip, whatever you want to call it. And then next we're going to get our little new Q-tip or our new little applicator ready. We're going to get it ready here because I want to show you what we're going to check next. So we're getting it wet because this is going to be a dry sample. So we're going to get this little applicator wet and we're going to do the same technique. We're going to close it off. We've got our agar tray, and I'll show you where we're going to go next. Now, we're looking at this here. This one is going to be nasty. We see the handle on the bed. No, we're not going to do the handle here. Nope, we're going straight for the toilet. Yes, we are going to get this sample from the toilet. When you're doing it, Okay, not to be too gross here, but try and think of the places where maybe things might splash and collect, okay? So underneath the rim of the toilet, luckily here at the studio they have nice and clean toilets, but no matter how clean your toilet is, there's usually some of that bacteria on there. So we're depositing it onto our tray. We're gonna do the same thing. We are gonna dispose of that applicator. I'll see you back at the studio. Okay, so welcome back. While you were over there watching me collect those things from the toilet, I got a couple things ready for our next ones, okay? I am gonna collect a sample from my shoe. This is the shoe that I wore right in here today. I'm not gonna show you my bare foot. I don't have any holes in my socks, but I'm not gonna show you that one. We are gonna get a collection from our shoe next, okay? So this will be a dry sample. Now, same thing, you always wanna think about the parts that those bacteria may really collect. Now you have the flat parts on the bottom that touch the ground, right? So those will collect it. Now this sample, this applicator may get pretty yucky, dirty, that's okay. But I also want you to think about the parts that that bacteria doesn't get rubbed off from. And that is going to be right here in the grooves and the gross parts. Now, if you happen to have gum on your shoe, unfortunately I do not have gum on my shoe, but if you do have gum on your shoe, definitely check out the gum there. So we have our applicator here that is nice and dirty. We remember to do that twist. This is going to be number 7. Okay, so we are to number 7 now. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add that to our agar tray. Now our next sample is number 7. Now we're going to get to what is maybe the grossest of all. If you haven't guessed yet, your cell phone. Yeah, your cell phone. So we are going to take a sample from your cell phone. Again, this will be a dry sample, so we're going to get it wet. And again, what do we think about? We think about where might those bacteria build up. Now, everybody touches the buttons on their phone. Some of your Apple products don't have buttons, but you'll definitely get the buttons. You think about it when you hold a phone, you usually hold it by the bottom like this, so you can scroll around. So by the bottom there, we're going to flip this phone over. We are going to get those high touch areas on the phone. And then you're going to get the part where you're always texting. Usually the bottom half of the phone, remembering to twist. Now this much water is not going to hurt your phone. It'll be fine. And then the part where your cheek and your ear are touching. Okay, so then you're going to get the part where your cheek and your ear are touching. And we are going to deposit this one into number 8. Okay, so this is our final sample. So for our samples, what we have is, I'll just kind of list them off. We have head, we have mouth, we have hands, we have a handle on the door, we have the sink handle, we have the toilet, we have our shoe, and we have a cell phone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I am going to incubate these, and next week we will see what happens when these colonies start to grow. Okay, so make sure you tune in for the next one. I look forward to seeing the nasty things that happen. Remember, I am Mr. Dave. This is the RayKitty Science Project, and as all of this shows, science shows you matter.